There we go. Upside down. That's right. Can you hit the two light switches closest to me? The back two, keep the back illuminated. The front two are off. It makes it easier to see. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so we did 1.1 and 1.2 yesterday. And we're going to dive into, now that the bidet talk is over. You never know what you're going to get with Hefe. That helps with some of the glare, doesn't it? Let's just get these fucking lights out of here. As long as I got a little bit, I can see. Wow, there's too little. Okay. So we're going to be doing, this is Math 21. We're starting with 1.3. We'll get through 1.6. The rest are all kind of short and quick or overlapping. 1.3 is on simple random samples. You won't care so much when you're doing the homework because chapter 1's all together. So simple random samples, maybe the best way to do it is give an example. People need to be picked randomly. Somewhat randomly. And without being overly complex. I think that's what the simple part means. I don't really know where the simple part really comes in. But let me give you an example. You are surveying students for your project. You want to hit up, we got students that have day shift or they work during the day, come to school at night, as many of you know. We've got students that don't have jobs or take morning classes, go home and do stuff at home in the evening. So we've got, you know, day students and night students. Try to survey some of them, of each. You don't have to be here at 7 p.m., but if you're here at like 4 or 5, you generally get the night students, except the ones that literally work till 5 and race to school. Try to get them from different places. The students that go into the library are different than the students that hang out in the hallway here. Different, and if you can, like, do Visalia and Tulare. We've got a couple different places. Maybe bookstore, if you're near the bookstore, front of the library, cafeteria, etc. Don't do them all, don't do the same spot. You know, students have different schedules. Some do Monday, Wednesday classes only. How many of you try to get your classes only on 1 or 2 days a week, 2 days a week? You're not alone. So other students are that way too. So you want to try to survey if you can. on different days, if like when you're on a team, and if you are asking students, maybe someone else on your team has Monday, Wednesday, when you're here on Tuesday, Thursdays, ask them to do the Monday, Wednesday surveys. That way you don't have to come to school for it, but you still get a sample of different days. Try different days. Don't ask the first 25 students and then leave, or 50 students, or however many you're doing. There's nothing random about that. Perfectly acceptable is ask every third person. Or sixth person, something like that. Or they're not all just in a row. Otherwise, you tend to be, you are locking in your time zone by time frame by making it really short.
That's bad.
Yeah. And 1.5 and 6 talk about that. We're going to be talking about what's bad about it. The biggest thing that's bad about this falls into 1.5. So simple random samples, ask random people. Don't be lazy. Don't avoid everything that comes from here on out. 1.5 and 1.6 are on bias, or 1.5 is on biases. If I went too fast on that, let me know. So maybe I should tell you what a bias is first. What did you do your finger?
Huh?
What did you do your finger?
Oh, I got hurt.
Oh, no shit.
Well, yeah, that's what I already right now, so.
Oh, ow, ow. Did she mouth off to you? That was you just fucking, you yank that shit on? I hope it feels better soon. A bias is favoring or having an inclination towards one choice, option, group, or another. These can skew the results of your survey. So the most likely one that you will commit, and then the one that most people commit that you want to avoid at all costs, is called the convenience bias. Picking the members of your group out of convenience or out of your sample. Because it's convenient for you. So only picking people that come to class on Tuesday, Thursday night. Even if you just if you hit people all up and down the hall, you are literally only getting people with your same schedule. You're not, which means you're tending to get people that are older, because a lot of 18-year-olds get lucky and they're still living with parents. There's a lot of day students that are 18 to 20. Most students that are over 20 have different schedules. They're working, and so working changes their stuff. So if you're serving predominantly working people, questions about students, you're actually missing, like 60% of this campus. We have a lot of community colleges that have a lot more working students than like a university. There's a good 30–40% of people that are returning students that, like look around the room. There's a lot of people in here that are over 22. But at a university, it's different. But so if you're only surveying night students, you're tending to get almost all older students or students. So if you ask questions that are related to employment or anything like that, you have a skewed group. Asking people that are only in front of the library are people that tend to maybe like to study more in person on the campus or something like that, do more research. Depending on what you're asking, you could be skewing your results. So just try to, and the only reason to do so would be because you didn't want to move. You didn't want to go to a different spot and survey from a different location. You just wanted to knock out your surveys as fast as possible. Let's face it, when you're doing it, this is how you're going to want to do it. You're going to want to not waste as much time as possible. Still, break it up. If you're willing to only spend 2 or 3 hours collecting responses for your survey, do 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, different locations, different days. Don't do it all at once. So convenience bias is the most likely one that you'll be guilty of. Undercoverage. Light. Nope. That don't work. That's not bad. Does that show up better? If you can't see very well, and then you're not sitting in the back where you're squinting, it means like the fucking paper's not gonna be clear the way the lighting is. Let me know, because I'm not looking at the screen very often. I'm looking at you guys. Be sure to tell me. So an undercoverage bias occurs when the group's percentage in a sample is different than in the population. This happens a lot in politics, political surveys. A lot of people align with either Republican or Democrat, but there's still a good, 5 to 10% of Americans that are spread across other groups, the Green Party, the Libertarian Party. There's other, I can't think of the other names of the groups. So like good 5 to 10% of the people are not in one of the two major groups. And yet often when you poll people, you get predominantly Republicans and Democrats, and unless you ask enough people, you may not get any independent party student or people. So they're getting no coverage. They're completely under coverage because they're not covered at all. You're not getting their opinion at all when you're asking political things. Politics and like independent party and politics is a good example of this. You don't want that. Everybody should have a voice in that. Otherwise, you're not getting an accurate representation. And that 10%, that independent group, swings the results of the elections all the time. They're the ones that make the decision. Because they shift. We've got the non-response bias. Participants don't respond. If I could spell it, this would go a lot better. I'm fucking it up still. Yep. Fuck. I'm like, that doesn't look right either. It's icy. There we go. Participants, like pants, trousers. Participants don't respond. I hope you're here, Tommy. I hope the pink eye goes away. She messaged me again, emailed me again, said she still wasn't feeling well. She did not say pink eye. I had fun telling my other classes about that. That was good times. Participants don't respond, but we could do stuff about this. This can be minimized. By incentivizing participation. And I totally meant to bring something today and I completely fucking forgot. In fact, I've saved it for 10th October. I should have sent it in. They asked. One of the ways people try to incentivize filling out a mail survey, like they mail you a survey and they want you to send that shit back, is they'll put $1 or $2 in there. It fucking works. If you don't put the $1 or $2 in there, people are like, I'm not wasting my time on that. It doesn't matter if it's 2 questions. Self-addressed, they're already stamped. All you got to do is do it. Sometimes they're just postcard. You don't even need to fucking seal it. Just throw it in the mail. People don't do it. You throw $1 in, you get way more because they're like, they feel guilty. This is a slight little bit of guilt for getting a little bit of money for doing nothing. And you're like, you look at the survey at that point, you're like, oh, it's not that much. I can do that. This will really only take me 30 seconds. $1 for 30 seconds of work. That's pretty good money. Like $120 an hour if you can maintain that. That's really good money. I don't think you're going to get $1 every 30 seconds if you try it. So it's reasonable. It's like it's a good incentive. Other ways they get you to do it, if you've ever been to Vegas or gotten the call, we'll give you a 2 or 3 night stay vacation in this fabulous place if you come check out our 2-hour spiel for our what are they called? Timeshares. Timeshares is the word I'm looking for. You go watch a spiel for timeshares. They are hard sellers, and they will sell. But if you stay there the 2 hours and you can do it, you can stick to the no. They'll give you what they offered, but they're gonna really, they'll sell it. If you don't buy with them, they'll get the manager, the next manager. Eventually they run out and they'll give it to you one way or the other. So it's, do you want the 3-day vacation in whatever place it is for 2 hours of pressure? If anyone's ever done that, me and my wife have done it like twice, and we're like, it's not worth it anymore. I'm tired of saying fucking no. Those are examples of participation bias or non-response bias and what you can do about it. Other things they do about it is, like, if it's a phone call, they'll do callbacks. Or if you're not, like, I'm sorry, I don't have the time right now. Is there a time that they'll before you can hang up, is there a time that'd work better for you? And it works. Not all the time. Sometimes I know it works because I've said yes sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, nope, I clearly don't like where this phone call is going. You know, the topic of the survey, I don't want to deal with it. No, I'm just busy. Other ones are like, it's quick, it won't be the long. I'm like walking out the door, I literally am. try again tomorrow, like after 6 p.m. or something like that. And they do, and I'll answer the survey. So it does work, doing the callback things. Another type of bias, opposite of the non-response bias, is the response bias. These can be as simple as just flat out lies. Or things are misrepresented. The interviewer makes an error. For example, just example of interviewer errors. You're like, how's the interviewing an error? Other than the obvious ones, like just fucking up the question. Like if you ask everyone Pepsi or Coke, you will get honest responses from the people that give a shit. Pepsi or Coke, okay? People that don't have a preference generally will pick the first one. If the list is long, you're like Pepsi, Coke, Shasta, you start naming like 10 different. If I started doing this with alcohol and naming like, and you're like an alcoholic and you don't give a shit what kind of alcohol it is, whatever the last one you said is, you're gonna go that. The way you do it is you just change this up. You change the order of the question. Ask some people Pepsi or Coke, ask other people Coke or Pepsi. So that's like how the wording of the question really. They could have a vested interest in the outcome. If you have a car salesman, used car salesman, doing a survey on what's the better value, a new car or a used car, he got a very good interest in you saying used. Or new, let's go with new car salesman. Used cars tend to be a better value because they cut a lot off the price right away. So let's say a new car salesman's doing the survey. He's got a vested interest in you responding new. So he might be like, would you rather have a shiny car? Is that a better value than some, piece of shit clunker, used car? They like maybe with not that much of an exaggeration, but even the tone, the facial expressions, they can sway the response in the audience if someone doesn't really know or have a real opinion. So having people that have vested interest in the outcome, you have a bias there. Other response biases are just flat out errors, data entry errors. At one point, I had an online survey and people were supposed to put their age anonymously. And I knew it was only students at this point. I was certain because I had not sent it out to the public, and I got 81 as the age. Now, we do have older students. We might even have some that are in their 70s. I strongly doubt there's many. And I don't know if there's any that are in their 80s, because you start moving real slow, or you've got better shit to do with your time than go to college when you're 80. I'm pretty sure should have been 18. They were typing fast and they transposed the numbers. That's a data entry error. Other things with this response bias, it's a big category. Open or closed questions? Pepsi or Coke is a closed question. What if you don't like soda? What do you do? Do you leave it blank? Just pick one at random? It's not really accurate of what you like? A better question, an open question. If you drink cola, that's what the general category of Pepsi or Coke is called, cola. What brand do you prefer? That might matter if you're only going after soda questions, but if you're just curious in general, maybe a better question is, what do you prefer to drink with meals? Because some people don't like sodas at all. Whether it's they're diabetic and they don't want the sugar, whether they don't like the taste, whether they don't like the carbonation, whatever the case may be, there are people that don't like sodas. There are people that don't like chocolate. I'm not talking about people that are allergic to chocolate. I'm talking about people that can eat chocolate and don't like it. These people are the sons and daughters of Satan. Is there anyone in here that doesn't like chocolate? It's okay, I forgive you. Chocolate cake and ice cream is different than chocolate.
Or candy.
Candy in general, like, oh, at least there's a candy in
Are you
there.
gonna go over the same chocolate?
What?
Are you gonna go over the same chocolate? Like last time?
Oh, that's end of the semester. I need to distribute and have them eat chocolate first, except her. She won't do it.
I'll eat something, just.
You don't have to eat it.
I don't like Snickers.
Well, since we do cover probability and stuff, I'm at some point going to bring in a box of M&Ms and have her hand out a bag of M&Ms to everybody. And your goal, your one task before you eat them is to count up how many of each color and report it. Because we're going to use it for doing some probability stuff. So that's what Hansel is referring to.
No, I was referring to,
I know, don't ruin my shit.
All right.
Don't ruin my story. There's a method to the way I do shit, Hansel. So there are perks or pros and cons to those questions. Pepsi versus Coke, you're going to get 2 answers on one. They're probably pretty easy to add up. It's either in this column or the next column. Even if you do something just like if you drink cola, what brand do you prefer? How many different soda brands are there out there? Make sure you throw in all the generics. There's a lot. So you're going to get Sam's Choice. You're going to get Shasta. You're going to get Pepsi. You're going to get Coke. You're going to get, what's some other ones? RC, the generic cola. Sort of. Not as generic as some of the others, but you're gonna get a long list. And what if they go, well, if you mean by cola, like, what about Diet Coke? Well, then they're gonna go with Diet Pepsi. Then they're gonna get Diet Shasta. And then they're gonna go, if you mean by cola 7-Up, I like 7-Up. And then all of a sudden your colas go from Pepsi to Coke to having 45 different answers for every, walk down the soda aisle and everything is named. Pretty soon Dr. Pepper and Mr. Pibb's on a list of colas. Because they're like, you must mean soda. And so tabulating up 45 different responses gets tedious. It's a pain in the butt. So the open question gives you a lot more answers, which is a bitch to tabulate stuff, but it's more accurate. If you can do something with it once you have it, you get better answers. So there's pros and cons to each. That's it for 1.5. Let's look at 1.6. Any questions so far? I'll have numbers in this class. I think Tuesday we start doing some math. 1.6 is on steps in an experiment. As I fuck up the word experiment. Now we talked about why an experiment is good for surveys previously. You can, without like a design experiment, you can only find correlation between the groups and the responses, not causation. If you design an experiment, you can find causation as well. Having said that, I'm betting most of your projects, you're not going to worry about that correlation just fine. You're trying to see if something correlates. It's not important enough to you to know whether or not their age or their gender has any relationship to why they like Coke versus Pepsi. You're not going to care. You just want to know if they like Pepsi or Coke. So trying to find a cause is irrelevant. So, but in experiments in general, this stuff is important. So you start off, you need to, first off, identify the problem you're trying to figure out. Identify the problem to be answered. And when I say problem, this could be just curiosity. Could be your problem. I want to know if more guys than girls like to go king size when they eat at a fast food restaurant. Does it fucking matter? It does probably to the fast food companies. Like if you work for McDonald's and we're like a manager, it might be useful towards you. Marketing king size with a macho theme if it was more men do it. I don't know. Just coming up with reasons. But it could just be curiosity. You're like, I wonder what. In fact, I'm betting what most of your projects this semester are going to be like. I wonder if this is true. You know, you're not invested in the answer. You don't care about the answer. You're just curious. But if you've done that, it does help to have your population in mind. There is nothing wrong with surveying just students on Tuesdays and Thursday nights for your survey. If your survey says, I'm interested in only, we wonder if Tuesday, Thursday night students are this way, then that is your population and you've done the right group. If you pose the question as, we wonder if COS students are this way, you've eliminated all the day students, but if you say, we wonder if night students on the Tulare campus on Tuesdays and Thursdays prefer Taco Bell to Del Taco. Now you should ask people only on Tuesdays and Thursdays, not Mondays and Wednesdays. But you have to identify that and you just start out to get right out the gate what you're going with. That helps you determine how you have to go about setting up your experiment, who to survey and stuff like that. In general, you will want to be like in a job, you're not going to be picky and say night student. If you try to do poll night students, you're not going to get very good responses here. It's fucking dead out there. I never see any action out there. And I leave the door open for both my classes. There's never anything out there. So don't do it. But in general, in like a job, you would actually try to capture them all, like COS students in general. So have your people in the population in mind so that your sample is reflective of the population. Number 2, identify factors that affect the outcome. Maybe check with other people and see what they think too. Maybe ask other people. Think back to our discussion on the mini fridge and obesity. And what factors could cause obesity, not just a mini fridge. And people answer different things, and then there's a good chance someone in the room says something you didn't think of. Like this person that said genetic conditions. You may not have thought of genetic conditions. So it can't hurt to ask other people, are there any causes for this that you might think of in this population? That way you know what's in mind, that you don't have any lurking variables that you're unaware of. Then you want to, that'll help you frame your question better and how you survey it. Determine the sample size is good. Oftentimes this answer is as many as time and money will allow. Now, if you have plenty of time and money and you hire enough people, you really only need for many things. Like 40 people in each group or so. You are more accurate with the more you ask, but you'll get a good idea if you've got 40 to 50 people. You'll see often we want less than 5% of the population. To meet both of those. If less than 5% of the population is below 40 people, you probably should just ask everybody and not have a statistical analysis. You can just literally ask everyone if 5% is below 40. The idea is you don't want so many that it's like it starts being too picky and it starts saying things matter when they don't. Like if we both drove cars from here to Visalia, the Visalia campus, and I made it in 12 minutes and 32 seconds. You made it in 12 minutes and 34 seconds. And if we did that enough times, I could show that I am statistically faster than you. Am I though? 32 seconds versus 34 seconds. I mean, really? So like you can go point to the point where saying something is significant and when it really isn't, because you've got too many in the survey. That's generally not going to happen because you're pulling a population. If you're asking people, you're never going to get anywhere near 5% of the people. That's a lot of fucking people. So generally not a big deal. Then for the experiment, does anyone not need that up longer? I try to give time in between what I'm saying to give you time to write. This is 4. You want to identify a control group if you can. So like. Fix the factors you're not studying. So that they don't change. Let's go back to the, not necessarily the mini fridge obesity thing, but let's just do obesity in general. If you're trying to figure out if genetics causes obesity, you want a very specific thing. You're trying to see if genetics cause obesity. You want your group to be as uniform as possible in everything else, because genetics are going to vary widely across the group. So try to get the people that have the same diet, same type of work, same exercise level. Everything else, you want everything else to be as close as possible, so that the only thing that really changes a lot is genetics. That way, if something is wildly different, you can pinpoint which gene it is or something like that. When you're working on projects, if you have questions on this, I will cover things like that. But generally, the things you're fixing, things you try to fix as constant, as unchanging is a better way of saying it, are the other factors you identified in B. If you're not looking for something like genes, but you're just looking like the effect in general, randomizing your group or groups, I should say, more than one, tends to minimize variations among people. If I'm trying to find out if people like Walmart more than Target, and I ask 100 people at each store, and I try to be as random as possible, there's a good chance I'm going to negate anything that's based on cultural and national things, anything that's based on gender issues, anything that's based on just shit everybody has in common. We all fall in different categories for different things. But if I'm random about it, I'll probably end up with about half women and half men, not including people that don't identify as either. I will probably, in both groups, as long as I'm random about it, I will probably have just as many Hispanics or as many whites in each group if I'm random about it. And so that negates like nationality or cultural influences. Not nationality, cultural. Like you can be Hispanic or white and still be American. So nationality is not the right word. So cultural background, maybe, however you want to call it. Doing random selections of your groups helps balance that out. So like if you're random, both groups will have about the same amount. And then you can get away with doing stuff the same. If you're trying to focus on something very specific like genetics, though, you really gotta like find it. You can't rely on the randomization there. What else we want to do? Oh, so it minimizes the effect of uncontrollable factors. You can't survey a bunch of people and say, you know what, you all need to be Hispanic. Oh, you're white. Nope, too bad, you're Hispanic now. Doesn't work. Maybe Caucasian, a better word. I hate fucking politics nowadays. Like, you never know which word's okay. It helps minimize the effect of that. That's what I was saying with the variation. Ansel was here on Tuesday. He doesn't have pink eye. So it wasn't me, Tommy. If you're there, Tommy, it wasn't me. Next part 5. Experiment. You've done everything else. You figured out what you're going to do. You figured out what questions you want to ask. Do the experiment. And collect the data. Eventually, for most things, we will summarize the data. To be used for techniques, for statistical techniques. What I mean by that is if I do the Pepsi and Coke survey, I don't give a shit if Hansel said Pepsi or Coke. It doesn't matter in the big picture. I want to know how many people said Pepsi and how many people said Coke. That's a summary of the group. Like 30 people like Pepsi, 29 like Coke. Summary of the survey. What each individual person wanted is usually not important. Last page. You guys ready for more? Finally, F or 6. I went from letters in my notebook to numbers on this page. Test the claim or problem or question from part 1. Some bitch, I did that up there earlier too. I referenced the factors you identified in B. I should say in part 2. And we'll show you how to do that. This is what we call inferential statistics. It is generally the point in statistics in general. If you can already survey everyone and know the exact answer, just do it. Then you know, without question, what the answer is. Inferential statistics is when the population is just too big. It's not worth the effort or money to ask everybody, but you still want to be reasonably sure that you're right. You want, like Pepsi cares if, 60% of people like Coke or not versus Pepsi. They care. That matters to them. Those are the steps. A couple more things we can talk about what you can do in these experiments. So one way to do this is called the matched pairs design. Pick two connected things or people. And one gets the treatment, let's say. I don't know if treatment's really the word I want to use, but one gets whatever you're trying to test on, and the other doesn't. Twins work well for this. Siblings tend to work well for this. Married couples tend to have enough in common that you can survey them or do that. If you do something like that, where one half of the pair is male and the other half is female, try to change which set gets the treatment. Like, don't do all males get the treatment and then all females don't. You're kind of having a bias embedded in there from that. But things that fall in this category, so like I was saying, siblings, twins, married people, before and after. Those are things that come in pairs, and you don't have to change the individual. And you could pair by location too. Survey in the Bronx and then in the rich, classy area. Survey in Visalia versus Tulare. Things like that. Things that have a connection but are different. Visalia and Tulare are really close to each other, so there is definitely a relationship between the two, but they are separate. Something we need for the next one is definition. So a placebo this looks and tastes, if appropriate, just like the thing you're testing. But it doesn't offer the same effect. You see this all the time in drug studies. And in some cases, it's unfortunate. In some cases, I'd feel immoral doing it if I knew I was doing it. Isn't that light enough? That didn't help. The brighter is better? Like that?
Yeah, so you could.
Okay, from this angle, it's harder to see. Ah, I can see it on the screen now. Like literally from this angle, like the dark letters I can see, the red letters I can barely see. So maybe it's just the angle with that screen. Over here, it looks just as fine. So you'll see this, it's unfortunate that it happens in some things, like if you're trying to test to see if you've got a cure for cancer, you have to have two groups. Because there's just the power of belief. Hope and goes a long fucking way. It really does. Hope that you are taking a medicine that will cure you sometimes is enough. No one knows why. There's no like medical reason for it. But like, even if it's just headaches, let's not go something serious as cancer. Let's say just headaches. And they're like, does this pill take away your headache? Just thinking you're taking away your headache. And then if your headache goes away on its own or something like that, you're like, yeah, it worked. So what they need to do is they need to give one group pill and everyone else gets a pill that looks identical, but has no reagents that do what they say. They used to call them sugar pills because it used to be capsules. And so you wouldn't know what's in the capsule. You just swallow the capsule and they could put sugar in it. It's not a big deal. And even for a diabetic, one capsule full of sugar generally is not enough to cause damage. So you wouldn't know, you just see a red and blue capsule, you swallow it, you think you're taking the pill and you give your result. But they have to do it so that they can show that there is a difference between thinking you're taking the drug and the actual taking of the drug. That way they can show that it's effective, which means when they're testing for serious shit, like a cure for cancer or something like that, they have to have all cancer patients. And they have to knowingly give half of them nothing that they think is going to work. Just let them think they are taking it. Now, this leads into something called single blind versus double blind studies, because I don't know that I could do that. If I knew what I was giving out to the patients, if I was administering the dosages and I knew you were getting a sugar pill, I don't know that I could look you in the eye if I knew you had cancer and I knew you thought I was giving you the cure and I was giving you something that, you know, fucking makes Kool-Aid. You know, I couldn't look you in the eye if I knew it. So that's where single blind versus double blind comes in. A single blind is well, not survey, but experiment. Is where the recipient doesn't know what they are getting. They are getting a placebo or drug. But the person administering does. The blind person is the recipient in that sense. I wonder if they've renamed it to not target out visually impaired people. I wonder if they have. I wonder if they call it something else now. Like maybe single concealment versus double concealment. They could,
Well, I mean, you're right.
but blind people are like, I'm fucking blind. I know I'm blind. You can't change the word and like use a different word and make it, you think that you're not. But they can't see what they're taking. Double blind is different. The person administering the drug doesn't know either. The medication doesn't know either. Who is getting what? So you kind of basically have to go in there and you've got, let's say, we've got Hansel and Gretel. Those are the people administering drugs. And we put one tray, two trays on the table and say, Hansel, this is for your group. Gretel, this is for your group. And then we walk out of the room. So I don't make eye contact with Hansel and Gretel because I know that Hansel's got the cure and Gretel's got a sugar pill. I don't make eye contact with them. I just leave it sitting there. They don't see my reaction, my facial expression, nothing. They pick up the tray. They look identical. They think they're the ones giving the cure to the person. So they can feel good about it and look them in the eye. And the recipient does not know. This is the equivalent of the firing squad. And everybody gets a blank except one fucking person gets the real bullet. Everybody on the firing squad thinks they're firing the blank. So they don't feel bad about shooting someone in the fucking head. That's what a firing squad is. 10 people shoot guns. Only one of them needs a bullet to kill someone with a headshot. So most of them are shooting blanks. And everyone feels guilt-free because they think they had the empty gun. One of the empty guns. If there's 10 guns and 9 of them are empty, you've got a 90% chance that you had the empty gun. That's pretty good odds. I feel pretty good about myself. I didn't do it. It was fucking Hansel. He shot.
You can feel it. I bet.
I don't know.
bet you-
I don't know. The gunpowder should be the same. The recoil should be the same. The weight of the bullet isn't really what kills you. It's the speed of it. So you probably can't detect how heavy, the extra little bit of lead or whatever is in the bullet that makes it heavier than a blank. Not unlike a rifle. The rifle was already heavy. Detecting, a half of an ounce on a fucking 20-pound thing. You're not gonna, no one's got that level of awareness. So you think you're shooting the blank. Or one of the mini blanks. That's a double blind. That's a much better example than the gun thing. I need to start adding the firing squad. I like that one. The point is the people don't know what they're doing. So they can't, well, for the term purposes of this, the drug is actually better. They can't influence it. Because if you know you're giving someone that isn't going to cure them, and you're just giving them hopes and wishes and blowing, rainbows up their ass, it's a little bit harder to look them in the face and go, here you go, this will fix everything. This will fix everything. Hopefully they don't say I promise when you're testing drugs, but you never know. That's the idea. Okay, we've covered a lot of material today. There are actually computers in the desk in front of you. This is the reason why I stopped lectures early. I meant to mention to Sebastian the other day, because he asked, he's like, why do we end early? I usually end early to give you time to work on this stuff in class if you want. So if you want, you can open up the desk. There's a little hole, you pull it up, the screen comes out. You can work on homework in here until 7 if you want. Or you're free to go. And I'm not going to judge you one way or another.
It's really still hard drives.
What's wrong with a hard drive?
It's kind of, I don't say obsolete, but you get a, desktop from nowadays. What is it? I don't know, they make,
I haven't bought a new computer and apparently obsolete time periods.
well,
I fucking have.
but I've just got a desktop from Costco.
Is it thicker? Is the monitor thicker?
It's just literally a monitor and the keyboard.
Only about trim. Don't worry about the trim beats. Those are annoying. It's cutting off the edges and then redoing the beat.
So like the older ones. It's possible, they don't have 60s, that's one of them.
Maybe trim off the 95. Yeah.
That's what they do for that's what they do for 60 studs. Because
Really?
this kid, well, it's only like 7 kids in our class, and the average is all the time. It's kind of like it's not 40, so we're in the negative. This average it out.
Why though? What's the point? Just to report the average?
That's I feel somebody like most of them, they want higher grades and the harder class. Like how I don't know my friends. You got 60 on this, but they round it out to like.
Yeah, but I don't know what that means. Like, it doesn't change their grades unless you're changing the total amount of points possible. Like, instead of making it worth 100, you make it worth 80. Okay. Yeah, that's grading on a curve. Okay, so what you're going with, the median is the average value between the middle two. Median is middle.
Yeah.
So if there's an odd number, it's the dead center. If it's the middle one, the median is going to be the average of the middle two. So you've got 32.5 as the median equals the middle two are, it looks like they're in order presumably. 27 plus X divided by 2. Yeah. And solve for X.
Try to. This is the trim one thing.
Yeah, I skipped the trim one. I'll give full credit on the trim one. I hate it. It's not worth the time to teach you trim. What's up? Because you're not ever gonna use it. It's not the same as weighting the curve and stuff like that. It's a little different, but
I was for myself, I was trim one because like I never done stats, but like most of the stuff like the little stuff. So like on trim,
so
they're just saying basically everything the rest. Something like the bottom and top.
Yeah.
Scores it on here.
yeah, you're trimming off the outliers.
You get the booklet from books,
But you said.
and that's what.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Can I speak the book?
I don't have any good.
Yeah, it's
Oh, you need like, there's no book. It's just a little thing that gives you access to your math.
You've already all
And
started.
No, there's some that's doing like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Overachiever. So you're, wait, hold on. So you're taking full-time high school. You've got 12 minutes in college right now. You want to take another, and you're still working 30 hours a week? And you still have time for video games.
This might be the first.
This is some bullshit.
Oh, no.
I'm so jealous. You have no idea how apparently smart you are. You grasp shit really fast so that you can work your efforts when you're working and stuff. You don't have to tell them how much, tell the people that are paying attention what you do. Your average week, how much you do.
Next school, take 2 APs at engineering class. Take my COS English 2 classes in there. And I have like government, I'm taking focus science in March, taking this class. I was thinking of taking another college class, then I work part-time on Wednesdays.
Full-time high school student, full-time college student, full-time, 30 hours, is almost full-time work.
You're a freshman?
He's a senior in high school, taking full senior high school classes. 12 units of college classes, wants to take another class, works 30 hours a week, calls that part-time. Gets all his work done and still has time for video games.
How do you do that? I want.
He doesn't realize how unique he is. You're super smart. It's cool. I like it. That's why I'm jealous. I couldn't do all that and still like, I would run out of time. Doing homework alone would run out of time.
Honestly, bro, by the time you come here, you're set. By the time you graduate school, you come here, you're set.
Right. You're in good shape. He responded on the survey, what, math, that's easy. I do physics. You're unique. It's good. It's awesome. When I say I'm jealous, that's an awesome thing. Because I'm not jealous of a lot of people.
Of course.
I do have a question.
What do you mean?
Connected.
I know, you had it only bought it through January. Can you get another one? Yeah. I told you that at the
You
time.
did well. Did you just?
So I need you at this class.
Looks for a phone.
I got pins. You probably wanted pins. Fill out your banner ID and student name just at the top first real quick. Go ahead.
You want the format for like that 160 hours calendar, do an Excel or
I like Excel better.
do Excel?
If you use Excel, do it in Excel. The Google Sheets works as well. Yeah, do writing on paper and taking a picture works. I mean,
Oh, we can do that too?
yes.
I was gonna ask you.
Uh-huh.
I like code.
This is angular momentum.
This is, we're doing, I'm doing. Rotation.
Yeah. Yeah, oscillations of gravity, nice.
I've already done, I like Newton. But, oh, well, that's for the 168, we can do it on paper, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It's the Friday.
It's tomorrow night at 6. It's in, it's in Visalia in the John Muir building.
I did the.
It's on the north side of campus. Come here, I'll show you on.
Because I got a Raspberry Pi, so I need. Send the teacher share, professor. Oh, you, this is what you see?
Oh, there it is. I was like, because I kept clicking on it and I was like, you click on it because it wasn't showing me anything. Yeah.
My easiest class at school is like business.
So there's already assignments on there.
Like,
Well, it's just.
all we really do is like, well, my teachers, like the student story. And they wanted me to like shoot time and, you know, if you have any ideas to start doing them. And I was like, we could make a membership. So
The Jones.
I basically have like 5 kids. Excel sheet. I'm like, just track everyone's membership.
No, I'm saying like. the sex-
So this is the Visalia campus. Here's Mooney right here. And right here is that freeway right there next to it.
Yeah.
Or relation to where it is.
Where's CSU now?
Because they're building a Fresno State campus over here.
Really, like big or small?
We got approved to do the whole damn block over here. Right now, they just have, it's like 5 majors. You can try and go there for your bachelor's for 5 specific majors. But they're gonna have, they're building like just, the voters of the county approved a fund building an expansion satellite for Fresno State. Okay, so here's like going down Muni, the front of the college. You go in the main parking lot, the John Muir building is right here.
Oh,
It's on the 2nd floor in this corner right here. If you go up there and look, just ask anybody that's walking where the Friday Night Labs is. People start gathering around 5. They start having dinner at 5:30, like pizzas and drinks and shit. And they start doing projects and stuff and discussions at 6. And I'll be there.
I have a Raspberry Pi, I have a touch screen. I'm with 2 cameras, but UV lights them.
Yeah,
So
mine
I can track more bacteria, like dust filter basically. But I also talked to my physics teacher, because he knows Raspberry Pi. He's like, oh, you have to be careful because basically what you're trying to do is to send a message to a motor. It's just basically hand sizes. So my hand size is like average, above average. It'll send the sensor to it'll send the code to the machine. The machine will determine how much plastic will need around that area. Determine it and just wrap around. And with a smaller hand, it'll sense it. So it's
Right.
It's a bunch of stuff.
There's probably people in that room on Friday Night Lab that know Raspberry Pi well and could actually help you with that coding. as well.
I just want to go this Friday because I haven't got the parts yet, but next Friday sounds cool.
Okay.
If I don't worry, it should stay.
If you're free and can make it, I would go this Friday because it's the first one in the semester. So they tend to do more introductions. You can see everything else they're doing.
Yeah.
It's worth going.
Yeah.
But if you can't make it, you can't make it. I know you get a ride, so.
No, I drove today. So
Oh, you drove?
I took
Hey, you drive too?
You're good.
I'm like 17.
Get out of my seat, you little shit. I could say
That's
that,
it. I was like, that's the Professor Jones I know.
right?
Is it good?
I'm like, yeah, I'm so jealous. And he's like, why? I'm like,
What about
what am I looking at here?
Oh.
Did you just clean your hands? You smell like vodka. I'm jealous. Your hands?
Give me a shot of this bad boy here, new life.
Okay,
I'm wondering, I'm about to buy.
That's not the right group, yeah.
Okay.
It says spring 2023.
Yeah,
no.
spring
It just takes me to
2023,
the question.
Math 21.
Yeah.
736.
Yeah, that's our group number.
Okay. She's paying $100. was cheaper this semester.
No, It was like 115 or 120.
Really? It went down?
Yeah, they're going down.
Yeah. Oh, I don't. Oh, right here. That's it. Guy notebook, one.
Welcome to class. When you get in,
Yes.
Canvas will have like an orientation module you should probably go through. Were you here on Tuesday? All right, so what we did on Tuesday, all this shit, these papers I did, I scan them, I upload them, and I recorded this lesson on Zoom. I've uploaded that. It's on a link to it's on YouTube, it's in Canvas as well, so you can see what you've missed.
Okay.
You'll be good to go. Let me turn off this recording if I didn't already.
Sorry,